The death toll has now reached at least 60 after a woman was buried in the rubble of her house in Verulam, north of Durban, minutes before rescue workers reached her. Another body was discovered early this morning in the debris on the beach near the outlet of the Umlaas Canal. The bodies of 2 more drowning victims have been found by police in the Pinetown Gillets area. Thousands of people have been left homeless by the driving rain, which at times was blown horizontal by the raging wind and has isolated towns and destroyed numerous bridges. Both Pietermaritzburg and Ladysmith have been declared disaster areas, and several areas are facing a severe water crisis after dams, aqueducts and pipelines were swept away in the deluge. The 4 giant aqueducts feeding Durban's water purification dams from the Natal Dam have been washed away, and the chief executive of the Umgeni Water Board, Mr. Graham Atkinson, says extremely harsh water restrictions will have to be imposed in the greater Durban area, as the only water available to the city and surrounding boroughs is that which is in the reservoirs, sufficient only for 2 or 3 days. The chief engineer of Durban, Mr. Don McLeod, has cut off water supplies to all water-based industries. Parts of Pietermaritzburg are also without water, and restrictions have also been applied at Ilogo on the south coast, Amanzimtoti, and at Empangeni on the north coast. The John Ross Bridge, the main bridge across the Tugela River on the N2 on the north coast, has been swept away by the raging floodwater of the province's largest river. It is feared that several motor cars were on the bridge when it collapsed. The bridge crossing the Amatikulu River south of Gingiglovo has also been washed away, which means that only short sections of the N2 between Durban and Empangeni are still open to traffic. Yesterday, 2 traffic officers were swept away and are presumed drowned after a large section of the bridge on which they were standing, that spanning the Umshloti River on the N2, collapsed, hurling them into the raging river. On the south coast, the old bridge on the N2 crossing the Ilova River has also given way under pressure of the floodwaters. The N3 has been blocked at Key Ridge by a landslide, while the Tala Valley Bridge on the Umbumbula Road in the Natal Midlands has been washed away as well. Greytown has been virtually cut off from the rest of the province by landslides on 4 of the main roads to the town. Another 2 large dams on farms have broken in the Cedarville district, causing extensive damage and flooding. One of the most dramatic accidents caused by the floods was on the railway line between Hibberdine and Mzumbi on the south coast. Water had undermined the track, and as the first locomotive of a train passed over, a huge sinkhole opened up. The second locomotive dropped into the crater, and a passenger coach came to rest on top of it. Transport Services personnel say it was a miracle that no one was injured.
Dramatic scenes of human drama also occurred in the Pinetown area just outside Durban. These visuals were captured by an independent film unit.
A woman and her daughter were watching TV in the lounge of their home in Brent Road when the house and 4 others in the area were washed away, the top 2 houses landing on top of the 2 below. Miraculously, the girl and her mother managed to reach safety and were unhurt. In Hopewell Road, a house and the 2 cars parked in the driveway also went downhill in a washaway. Another landslide in Wood Road completely destroyed one house and part of the house next door. The owners lost no time in trying to recover what remained of their belongings, and the once proud owners of this swimming pool are unlikely to be doing much swimming in it this summer.
Reporter Chris Augers also visited Natal today. These visuals from an Air Force helicopter include scenes from Ladysmith and more footage of the John Ross Bridge, where a number of cars were swept away.
We first overflew Ladysmith, which suffered extensive damage. Part of the town was underwater and several shopping centres were flooded. People even took to boats and travelled through the central business district in dinghies. This man, however, appeared determined to travel by bicycle. The Unkop Dam outside the town was overflowing and thousands of litres of water poured into streamlets, which became huge torrents of water feeding into the Tugela River. As we followed the river through the Tugela Valley, we saw scores of animals stranded on small islands. Huge trees were smashed into matchsticks as tons of water raced towards the Natal coast. In the background, we could see the snow-covered mountains. Several roads had been washed away, and at one point, a train stood deserted, its path blocked by collapsed ground and railway lines. Through the valley of 1,000 hills, the path of destruction could be observed. Small streams had caused havoc with crops, and tons of topsoil were washed away as rivers burst their banks, flooding kilometers of land. As we approached Empangeni, the awesome power of the Tugela River was clearly demonstrated. At some points, the river, which normally flows only about 70 meters wide, were covering an area of several kilometers. At Richards Bay, several roads were washed away and railway lines simply disappeared. Several holiday resorts were smashed to smithereens as the powerful wall of water reached the coast. Everywhere, bits of pieces of trucks and cars could be seen. Several vehicles could also be seen standing in the middle of huge dams of water where previously there had been roads. Bridges had been washed away at several places. At the John Ross Bridge, where several people disappeared on Monday afternoon when the bridge collapsed, scores of people gathered and watched the huge column of water race towards the sea. Waves up to 4 meters high could be seen, and still the water of the Tugela River was rising. Canelands became wastelands, and destruction could be seen everywhere.
In the Harrismith area, the swollen Wilge River, which is still rising, threatens to cause extensive damage to farms in the region. The heavy rains have so far caused the collapse of at least 2 farm dams. The probable loss of more dams in the area has led to the evacuation of farm workers who stand to lose their homes to the raging floodwaters. Serious animal losses have also occurred in this area. About 170 newborn lambs froze to death on one farm, and a farmer in the Van Rieenen district have lost 200 sheep after shearing them a few days ago. Several other farmers suffered newborn calf losses. Game losses on one Harry Smith farm included a rhino calf, a number of zebra, and various antelope. On the farm Swiss Valley, Mr. John Venning's homestead and pigsties have been isolated by the rising waters and may have to be evacuated soon if conditions worsen.
At the moment we're blocking in the pigsties because of the danger of the floods. Fortunately with this battery type of piggery that we have, the entrances are very limited, so we can block them up. We had to do it 11 years ago. The water is rising at the rate of 25 centimeters every 6 hours, and we estimate the water's got approximately 60 centimeters to go. So sometime tonight, if the water keeps on rising at its present rate, we'll be having to build this wall higher up. But this is just a start, and the higher the water gets, the higher we'll have to build.
Although Mr. Venning may prevent further losses, the flooding of this farmland has caused damage estimated at some 50,000 rand.
The full weight of the state machinery has been put into action to help the people of Natal, and the declaration of the region as a disaster area has been cited as a matter of urgency. Freek Robinson reports.
Everything possible is being done to
periods join that record when, if you look over a period of about 9 to 10 years and look across most of the country, certainly over the summer rainfall parts of the country, that you'll find that for one period of 9 to 10 years, the rainfall will be below normal, and then the next period, the rainfall will tend to be above normal.
Let's have a look at some of those diagrams which you have.
Okay.
And perhaps you could address those particular issues and point them out to us.
Right. Certainly, well, if you see that we start from about 1906 to 1915, we were in a dry period. We then moved at a later stage, following 10 years, into a wetter spell. The late 20s and the early 30s were one of the worst droughts on record. We then moved...
Especially 1933, I believe.
1933 was exceptionally a dry year. We've rarely...
coincided with the Great Depression.
That's correct, unfortunately.
Yes.
Then the late 30s and early 40s were wet. Moving into the rest of the 40s, early 50s were dry. And so on, we move up until during most of the 1970s, we've had a wet period. And recently, we've been in a dry period. But built on that is a dark black line, which shows the underlying rhythm which exists within that pattern, and which shows the same kind of pattern as we were discussing just earlier, with drought periods being succeeded by wet periods and followed again by further drought periods.
How many years are there in each of these phases?
There's roughly between 8 and 10 years in each phase.
And at present, we are coming through, if this is has predictive value, we are coming through towards the end of a dry phase.
Right, that's correct. If you follow the question marks on the right-hand side of that diagram, you will see that that is an extrapolation from about 1983. And that suggests that rainfall during the majority of the 1980 decade will be below normal. And I don't think we can really argue with that conclusion at this stage.
Yes.
With the extrapolation, it would suggest that around about the end of this decade, 1989, 1990, we will then be moving into a wetter period.
Has this rhythm, which seems to be emerging from this discussion, has this been upset at any stage, or is it a perfect rhythm?
There appears to have been an upset around the turn of the century, when, according to Professor Tyson, he interprets the data in terms of 2, unfortunately, dry periods successively. So a period of approaching 20 years when the rainfall was below normal. Other than that, we're not aware of any upsets.
And is there any significance in the fact that we now have had many stations around the country producing above average results over the past month or so? Rain seemed to have come earlier to the Highveld. We have these devastating floods in Natal, and many people are saying this heralds a certain prognosis for the summer. Can we say that kind of thing or not?
I wish we could, but unfortunately the fact that we've had heavy rainfall in the spring this year tells us no more about what the rainfall is likely to be during the coming summer than if we'd had no rainfall at all during this period. There's no technique that I'm aware of by which we can actually forecast the summer rainfall from the early summer rains.
Yes, yes. I'd like to thank Dr. Harrison very much indeed for joining us, and do take care.
Good advice in today's circumstances. Well, we're going to take a break for a moment or two, after which we'll give you a news update.
Finally, in tonight's program, a news update. The death toll in one of South Africa's worst natural disasters has risen to at least 60. The worst flood disaster in living memory has caused damage amounting to millions of rand. Many thousands of people have been left homeless, and many farmers have suffered severe stock losses. Large parts of Natal and KwaZulu have been declared disaster areas. The State President P.W. Botha has expressed his own and the government's sympathies over the loss of life, injury, and personal loss caused by the flood disaster. President Botha said the government departments concerned had already been asked to give urgent attention to the matter and to start rendering emergency aid immediately in all affected areas. President Botha says full details of comprehensive aid measures will be announced by the government soon. Natal authorities have warned the public that water sources have been contaminated by the flooding of sewage systems and water purification plants in the area, and it suggested that all water should be boiled or have small quantities of bleach added to it to render it safe. Dangers could include a variety of infections, including the risk of cholera. In one of the day's first and most dramatic rescue operations, 150 people were rescued from Durban's Mondi paper factory. With parked vehicles submerged in the factory's parking lot and no other means of escaping the floodwaters, employees made their way onto the factory roof, from where they were winched to safety. Inflatable dinghies, too, were launched to pluck employees from the rising water. A company spokesman said this afternoon that the floodwaters were still pouring unabated through the factory's windows. Members of the public have been requested by Mondi to report the finding of bright blue plastic drums swept away by the floodwaters. The unmarked drums contain peroxide, a concentrated paper bleaching agent. Handling the liquid without proper protection is likely to cause burning. Well, that's it.
Yes, not much for your comfort tonight, I'm afraid, but we'd like you to know down there in Natal that the whole of South Africa is thinking of you.
Indeed we are. And a very good night.
Take care.
You're with the National One. If you've just tuned in, here's a look at what's in store for the